All right, Julie, thank you very much. President Obama has challenged top lawmakers to come to the White House today with fresh ideas on what to do about the debt ceiling. Joining us now, Stephen Dennis, staff writer with Roll Call, who's been covering the debt battle since the very beginning. Lucky you, Stephen, to be able to cover this so much. Yeah. You know, it looks like we're back at it once again today. Anything constructive come out of yesterday besides, as the president joked, they were wearing ties as opposed to the day before?
Well, you know, some of the members who weren't in the earlier talks with Vice President Joseph Biden got to look at the package that they had been working on, maybe a $1.5 trillion or so in cuts that both sides have been willing to talk about. That leaves them about $1 trillion away, though, from an actual deal that would be around $2.5 trillion worth of cuts. And there's not a whole lot of time to figure this out. We're 3 weeks away from potentially, you know, a government shutdown on steroids, massive effects in our economy that, you know, the Treasury Secretary says would plunge us right back into a recession. A lot of economists worried about all kinds of problems from that. It's sort of a mutually assured destruction scenario. If they actually push that red button and push us past that August 2nd date, you know, it could be terrible for all sides. So they are trying to reach a deal, but as long as Republicans say absolutely no net new taxes, and as long as the Democrats say, well, we're not going to sign on to a package, large or small, that doesn't have any tax increases on the wealthy, it's hard to see how you get there.
So how do you see it working out then? Do you see, if each side holds steadfast to that, what's going to make the difference here?
Well, I think right now they're trying to cobble together some things that look from the outside maybe like gimmicks, you know, ways to add a few $100 billion here, a few $100 billion there. They've already included in that $1.5 trillion were things that look kind of gimmicky, like, well, let's sell off some of our broadcast spectrum, for example, and auction that off to the, you know, the telecom companies and other things that aren't really spending cuts that maybe both sides can agree to. There's also the potential that maybe the Republicans give some more on defense spending that could get you a few $100 billion here and a few $100 billion there. But in the end, you know, maybe this deal ends up falling apart, and then the president has a tough call to make because, you know, the Republicans have said they might be willing to do a short-term package if it came to that. The president so far is saying he'll veto that, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to say that now. It would be a lot harder to say that 3 weeks from now if we're 1 or 2 days away from a catastrophic default.
Yeah, it seems like right now everybody's just kind of trying to stick to their guns as much as they can. Now, the president did come out and said, you know, he kind of put a package together, including, as he said, raising the Medicare eligibility age. But, as you mentioned, that also included the tax increase, which Republicans are saying there's absolutely no way. Do you see the president possibly going with a short-term thing, even if it is getting closer to August 2nd? His biggest fear, I think, is he didn't want this to continue to drag out again as they get closer and closer to the elections.
Well, exactly, and I think, you know, he so far is sticking to his guns. That's his, you know, his veto pen is his, you know, that's his sword. That's what he can say. Hey, I'm cutting the line here, you know. But the problem is for both sides is real consequences start happening. You know, this would be a government shutdown on total steroids on August 3rd and 4th. Things like Social Security payments go out.
So forget what we dealt with a couple of months ago.
Exactly.
And we had limitations.
That was just discretionary spending. That was, you know, a lot of people's jobs who are watching this program. But it wasn't Social Security payments going out. It wasn't Medicare provider payments going out. It wasn't the potential for VA hospitals to shut down or benefits to be cut off. I mean, the consequences would be much more dramatic if you didn't increase the debt ceiling than the previous government shutdown.
Do you see anything other than an 11th hour deal at this point, or do you think they're going to push it to the limit?
You know, I think they're going to push really hard to get a deal by the end of this coming weekend. They're going to meet every day through, you know, until they get a deal. And, you know, they are $1 trillion apart. If they can come up with $100 billion a day, they'd be making good progress. That, you know, there is also the potential for whether they can cobble together some revenue package and find some sort of magic asterisk offsets that the Republicans can handle. One of the things that both sides have been talking about is whether you have a permanent fix to the alternative minimum tax, which is something that's going to hit tens of millions of Americans in the next few years if Congress doesn't act, and pair that with some small level of revenue increases that gets to both sides to sort of say, well, I got something I wanted.
So many variables and so much easier said than done. The good news is we can continue to talk about it and read about it. Stephen will look for your stuff in Roll Call. Thanks so much. It's always a pleasure.
Great to be here.
Al?
7:38 right now, Steve. Thank you very much. It's Tuesday morning, and today D.C. Councilman Bill Mendenhall